Hi, I want to address again the state of New Jersey, the folks in New Jersey. You need to wake up. We need more people paying attention. If you even know that they're considering and they're meeting at up in by Roxbury at some like what are weren't ever finished. They were finished but not inhabited, like warehouses or factory kind of places, spaces. Well, I spent time because looking, and I kept trying to say the immigration center, and they kept coming up with only two places. Oh, yeah, you heard me too. I have been saying this, and I've said it in graphics, and I've said it on my channel here. Um, we, people think Newark was the first, and this will be the second that they're planning to put it here. No. In Elizabeth, there is the Elizabeth detention center, and when I mentioned that, when I first started mentioning it to people, they were like, no, 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 that's a sometimes prisons are called detention centers. I said no. In America, jails are jails. That's where you go first before you've got just for holding, or before you've had a trial. You're in jail. Short-term sentences, like you got 20 days in jail. Well, you don't go through all the prison shit. You just spend 20 days in the local jail type of thing. Prison is after you're not in prison if you haven't been sentenced. That's it. You've had a trial, you've been sentenced. And they call them prisons in this country. If it says detention center, it's probably a privately owned one. But even those, where I worked for a decade as a corrections officer in that state, they called either like a minors thing, since minors can't go to prison per se, because prison is an adult, they've called the juvenile, they call it like juvie. When they say juvie, that means juvie prison, but they can't call it prison. So they call it a detention. They're detaining them while they're still an adult. While they're still a child, a minor. I'm very simplifying this because there's other things that work in there. But so people have gotten used to associating detention center with jail or prison as the same terminology, just different phrasing. But that usually denoted it was either a juvenile place, or if it was an adult detention center, it was privately owned. Because state-run ones, they're called prison. That's it, prison, that I'm aware of. Usually the detention centers, yeah, they're prisons, but they're privately owned prisons, companies, which means it's a business to them. It's not a place to have people think over their crime or pay for their crime. It's different. They're there to make money, so the only way they make money is to retain them. They'll agitate them, change rules or something that they know are gonna cause people to rise up, and the inmates be mad legitimately, and then they punish them for that when they weren't, for saying they want their human rights even in prison, which they're allowed. And I'm not talking out my ass for anybody who wants to say that. I'm addressing that now because, again, I worked for a decade as a corrections officer grade 2. I actually took the sergeant's test. I made it, but they only had like 2 positions, and there were like 23 of us on the list. And I was like in the middle there, but they only had like 1 or 2 positions. And one was far enough away that I wasn't gonna commute, and I wasn't gonna move. So it's not like, oh, that's all you were. So I don't want to hear that shit either. Oh, by the way, I was expert. Every year I qualified. Every year you had to requalify. So shut the fuck up and sit down right now. This is my space. My space here, not my space. It's my space. My channel. Shut up. But so the one in Newark is called Delaney Hall Detention Facility. The one in Elizabeth is called the Elizabeth Contract Detention Facility. Delaney Hall Detention Facility, Elizabeth Contract Detention Facility. Do not let New Jersey prison contract, don't let them lie to you and gaslight you. We already have 2 ICE detention death camps in New Jersey. That one in Roxbury will be number 3. Now, we have a huge, I think it was the population of like 3 of our bigger cities, like Patterson, Newark, and stuff. The population of that is more than the population of some states. We might be a tiny little state, but we've got a heavy, dense population. And to have 3 in such a small state, Rhode Island is the smallest state. Jersey's not far behind. I'm going to wait. I'm going to find out what number on size Jersey is. Hold on. Okay, got the facts. And you'll hear Smudgy yelling in the background. New Jersey is the 4th smallest state in America, but it is the 11th most populated state. Which means the ICE facilities, the one in Newark is what? An hour and a half from me. The one that they want to put up, that's, in one direction. Elizabeth is in the South Jersey. And Newark is like, I think it's in the northern, eastern, central kind of area, Well, for you guys, it'd be that side. And Elizabeth is down kind of the bottom. And where we are, where Roxbury is in the other, because it's kind of like in a triangle, kind of a elongated oval triangle kind of look. It's more of like so that's what they're doing. Elizabeth is down in the bottom part of the triangle. It's an inverted triangle kind of look, long, skinny. So you got Elizabeth down at the bottom, you've got the Newark over here, and the Roxbury here. It's the 4th smallest state with the 11th. You all wake the fuck up. This is the 3rd, not the 2nd. Elizabeth, I will give you that address. Where is my shit? Got all this shit up on my... Okay. Delaney Hall Detention Facility. 451 Doremus, Doremus, just in case you don't want to bother looking this up yourself, Ave in Newark, New Jersey. The Elizabeth Contract Detention Center Facility. 625 Evans Street in Elizabeth, New Jersey. This new Rox one, now that's where I started this. This new Roxbury, New Jersey facility that they're looking at. All we've seen, now they have a long drive, and you're not allowed, obviously the drive is the property, So all the protesters have to be, because it's all they ever say is Roxbury, New Jersey, off Route 46. Doesn't help if it doesn't, give you any. I mean, you have to get off Route 46 to go to Roxbury. So, I mean, the area you're in, but not where any streets or places are, other than the freeway. And so last night I spent over an hour, and I'm like, I kept trying every different phrasing of ICE, immigration, and all they kept showing was the Delaney Hall in Newark and the Elizabeth Detention Center that nobody says is an ICE thing. It's ICE. Any of the contract detention centers that haven't been there for ages and ages are popping up because it makes money. And that's what the contract, the privatized prisons are in it for. Money. Of course they're going to support ICE. It's like CCOT saying, yeah, we'll come and take all your people and abuse them. It's run. The prison is run by Nazis. They're not gonna say you can't. Oh. So I finally found an address and pictures of the site, which I still, when I see anybody talking, all I see are the protesters on, off 46. That's it. You never see the drive. You never see, So I would not stop. I was like, there has to be this information. There has to be, and I can't even remember the keywording I did, but I kept changing one word or changing a letter, taking the S out. I kept everything I could possibly, and all I kept finding was Elizabeth and Newark. Elizabeth, New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey. And then I said something about, I think I used the word empty space factory or empty spaces of, whatever. Once I found that, it was very easy to correlate if you punch in the address. Say ICE Immigration Detention Center and give that address. It pops up. It says it's being considered, but they've been seeing black vans going in and out for some time now. That's not considering, that's planning. And I have that address for you at Roxbury. And I'll see if I made a graphic with all this shit on my on my desktop here. I'm gonna see if I can find the graphic so I can just turn the camera around, let you see the graphic of what I made. There it is. Okay, let's see if I can get this to come up. Let's see if I can turn this and you can. There. Do the best I can because I'm having to hold it like that because I can't switch the cameras because it'll go off. That's what it looks like. So, this is, the address is 1879 Route 46, Roxbury, New Jersey. It's a 470,044 square foot industrial building available, and it says it's divisible, which means but they're not going to want to divide it. They want, and that's why they're going to let them use it, because they don't want to divide it. They want the whole thing. So they, people that are, selling, they, my hair is all weird because of the weather. They'll take it. It says now available for sale or lease. New construction, immediately available. They're past the deciding stage. Come on. Fans are still going in and out. They've seen it. They know. They either want it or they don't, and they're going to do it. So this is just a public service announcement to edify New Jersey and the rest of the country. This is not the second one. This is the fucking third one in the fourth smallest state of this country. Three other states are smaller than us, which means what? 50 states. You tell me how many more states are bigger than me, than our state. Right? You've got states that are Texas, California, Oregon, Wyoming, and any of those states are all bigger. Florida, they're all bigger. Some states have no ice facilities, and the fourth smallest state has now three. You need to wake the fuck up, New Jersey. And I'm going on this grind again. People don't have transportation. Just because this is one of the more expensive states, people were born that were your middle and upper class housekeepers and cooks and nannies and all this shit. There's a lot of us that don't have transportation because you're disabled, like my foot. I don't have a car. I can't trust, even if I could afford a car with the insurance and everything, I can't trust my foot because I never know if it's going to spasm or something. What happens, and it's my right foot. There's a lot of people with stuff that they don't have a vehicle. And nobody that's going to events wants to be, 20 minutes late to a protest because they had to go, 30 minutes out of their way to pick somebody up and get them back home type of thing. Well, you're 20 minutes out of my way and then it's 20 minutes on the way home. That is happening, and it's been happening since school went past. And I don't want to hear, well, with school and people work and some people are caregivers and sometimes they're barely getting home themselves from work or whatever it is, and they have to run and they're barely going to make the event or whatever, the town hall or whatever it is. And if they go and pick you up, they're going to be about 15, 20 minutes late. Isn't it better to have 2 or 3 people there for an hour and a half? Because protests are usually an hour and a half, 2 hours. Same thing with town halls, an hour and a half. Isn't it better to have somebody there, 2 people there for over an hour, than to have 1 person there for an hour and a half? What if every person, let's say there's 40 protesters, if every person that drove themselves there took an extra 10 minutes, 15 minutes to go out of their way or go back to the town behind them because somebody needs a ride, if even half of those 40 people went and picked somebody up, you'd have 60 people out there. 20 more people are pretty loud. Takes up a good amount of space, too. I'm tired of telling New Jersey groups this. New Jersey citizens, stop being fucking snobby. I love New Jersey. I love the folks. But I gotta tell you, you're being very classist when you're pushing away those that don't have their own vehicle, either due to being poor or having a disability that they can't drive. And you're rejecting them and refusing to allow them, by helping them get to those things, and yet you scream and you yell every fucking day. We all need to be out there in the streets. We need more voices in the streets. New Jersey people with vehicles in the resistance, stop being selfish bastards with your time. I get things are important. But is the resistance not important? If it's important to get people and voices in the streets, if it wasn't important, you wouldn't keep telling us that. If it's important, start helping that problem, and that is not by yelling at us. How about getting the people you already have in the resistance, just helping them get to the events to be seen? Maybe you should do that before you start screaming and trying to convert people that are basically racist, bigoted, misogynistic bastards to change their minds. Maybe get the ones that are already part of the resistance but have no transportation to those events to use their voices. Just saying.